Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Shoup, Director of Digital Experience Thought Leader here at Progress. And I have a couple of people joining me today. Susan Oland, who is the Director of Brand and Digital Marketing at Nova Scotia Power, and also Derek Barca. He's the Chief Technology Officer over at our partner, SilverTech. So we have so many things that are going on in our world today. Our customers have changed so much, and our engagement models and the expectations that they bring with them have changed so much. I mean, they're looking at having proactive services, meaning our customers, our end users, want to be able to interact with us on a proactive level or a self-service model level. They no longer want to call in. They want to receive their information at their time during the position they want. They also want personalized interactions. And we do a lot of personalizations and a lot of personalized content. They want these interactions and these environments to be very personalized for them as much as possible. But really what sets this apart is that they want these connected experiences completely across all channels. And that's really where things start getting difficult. As we start looking at this realm of seamless digital experiences, and we have to start looking at engaging with our customers in different ways. And so I recommend taking a look at this model and saying that if we focus in on our end user or our customer, then we need to really start building our experience around them. And that means that we need to have a unified customer journey, both pre and post conversion. So many times with companies, what we do is we focus so much on acquiring customers that we typically forget we do have customers, and they do need to have a participation with our brand or with our company after they sign on with us. So we need to really vet out that customer journey from first touch all the way to end of life. And this needs to be a scalable and extensible implementation model. Scalable, we need to be able to expand and contract our footprint as quickly as possible to take on the ebbs and flows of our business nature. With extensibility, this means that we need to be able to connect with third-party applications and best practices or best-of-breed technologies that have a seamless transition with an engagement model no matter where we go to. So we can actually expand our flexibility and functionality over to our customers by incorporating or engaging and implementing with third parties. Last, we need to have this agility to pivot and move with the ebbs and flows of our customers. Our customers are fickle. They're going to change. Their expectations are going to change based on new technologies or new immersive technologies coming out that they want to be a part of. And this agility will allow us to have the capacity to move between these different technologies and always keeping in lockstep with our customer. But the problem comes at this, is that we have to have this across all the destinations and devices. So not only do we need to have this on a web, but we need to have this across our entire landscape, any engagement model that we have with our customer. That means anytime our customer has an interaction with your brand or your company, we need to make sure that that digital experience is unified, that digital experience is seamless, that digital experience is frictionless. And I'm super excited to talk about how Nova Scotia Power and SilverTech have really provided what I would consider some unique and really wonderful steps as they continue down this road of digital experience through, frankly, a company that has no competition or is limited competition in the market, being a utility. And so it's super interesting to me to see how they are looking at their customer and they are looking at how to engage better with their customer to receive different metrics coming in. So I want to hand it off here to Susan and Derek. But first, let me introduce to the next couple of speakers. Susan is the Director of Brand Marketing at Nova Scotia Power. She's responsible for leading the brand strategy, customer communications, and all customer-facing digital experiences. She's always been focused on the needs and expectations of customers, whether that be as her national theater chain, where she works in delivering the guest-focused strategy or leading customer strategy throughout her career. She always continues to have her eye on ensuring each decision that she made is through the lens of that end user. And then we have Derek Barca. He's the Chief Technology Officer at SilverTech. And as the CTO, Derek is responsible for driving overall strategy and implementation of digital transformation initiatives really through his agency and driving it right through his clients. His vision is designing a data-driven digital experience that meets the complexity of both the needs from the end user and the needs from the client, from the businesses, that make it a really trusted advisor for SilverTech and him as they go forth with IT and customer experience initiatives. Derek's focus really includes platform architecture, personalization, solution integration, and long-term digital roadmap development. Derek and Sue, hey, it's so great to have you on, and I'm really looking forward to this story of how you guys work with Nova Scotia Power and delivering such a positive digital experience. Derek, why don't you take us through that?
Thank you, Greg. Happy to be here. Just to start off a little bit about SilverTech, we are a digital marketing agency headquartered up in Manchester, New Hampshire, not too far from here. Your office is in Bedford, Mass. We also have an office in Indianapolis, where your typical digital marketing agency focused on everything from digital marketing, helping your marketing team with running campaigns, search engine optimization, helping buy campaign ads and things like that, through website design and development on top of Sitefinity CMS and other CMSs like that. Our niche is really, though, connecting all of that, helping our customers connect their marketing with digital experiences and improving the overall customer experience, and being that consultant partner through all of your marketing and technology initiatives. And we are a Progress Accelerate Titanium partner and also a certified Sitefinity service delivery partner. For the webinar today, we're going to go over kind of who is Nova Scotia Power. Let Sue talk a little bit about that and their business objectives. I'll talk a little bit about how do we approach digital transformation, what do we think about it, and then finally how we approached digital transformation at Nova Scotia Power. But to start off, I'm going to hand it over to Susan and let her talk a little bit about who is Nova Scotia Power and what were they looking to do.
Thanks, Derek. Yes, before we jump in, maybe just a little explanation about who we are and where we are. So as Greg mentioned, we are a utility, a power utility, electricity utility up in Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada. We are on the East Coast. So we have approximately 1,700 employees, and we do generate, transmit, and distribute energy in Nova Scotia, serving approximately 520,000 customers, both residential and commercial customers. We generate about 2,400 megawatts of electricity, and believe it or not, it's delivered over 32,000 kilometers of transmission and distribution lines. So for those out there in miles, that's about equivalent to 19,000 miles. So we have a very large territory here in our province. We do use coal, oil, biomass, but we are moving towards clean energy, and so we have hydro, tidal, and also use some natural gas too to generate electricity. Maybe just to give you a glimpse into a little bit piece of our world, we have a video here that might explain a little bit more visually who we are.
We all know in Nova Scotia that if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. At Nova Scotia Power, we can't wait. My team maintains all the substation equipment, so really the backbone of the system. If we find problems testing at one of the bigger stations, the outages can be 20,000 customers. We're kind of running around high-fiving each other when we fix it. I'd like to think that we work hardest before storms happen. When you've got 20 kids on the ice and the lights go out, I'm kind of giving the nod, be like, I'm on it. So we understand the impact that our job has on the community. I think my kids think I'm a bigger deal than I actually am. Nice work. I think they understand that Nova Scotia Power has a real role in people's lives. At Nova Scotia Power, we look after the power system so our neighbors can focus their energy on their families.
Thank you, Sue. So before we kind of jump into the project and what we do at Nova Scotia Power, I want to talk a little bit about digital transformation. It's such a cliched and thrown about term. And before you can kind of like address it and solve for it, you really kind of want to know, what it is. What is it we're trying to do? It's funny, if you Google digital transformation, you get a whole bunch of different, definitions from all the different vendors and analysts and research companies and things like that. And they're all really focused around technology and transformation and disruption and stuff like that. But if you take a step back and look at, how Amazon approaches it, they are really focused on the customer. They're not looking at technology. They're not looking at their competitors. They're, as Jeff Bezos says, they want to be customer obsessed, focusing on, what's the best thing for the customer. And this really resonated with me, especially when it comes to Nova Scotia Power. When we were first up there talking to them about what they were looking to do, interviewing their stakeholders and things like that, their CEO at the time told us that whenever they make a business decision, they'd like to take the customer and kind of put them in the center of the room, in a virtual manner. Obviously, they're not grabbing a customer and throwing them in the room, but they put the customer in the center of the room, and if they can't explain and justify the reason for that change or for the decision they're making and why it's going to be better for the customer, then they realize they actually have to rethink that decision and readdress it. So this definition coming from Jeff Bezos really resonated with me. So when we look at digital transformation, it's really a fundamental change in how an organization leverages technology, people, and process to deliver value to their customers. And then hopefully after delivering that value, it's also obviously driving business performance. But it's not just about technology. It's really about leveraging people and processes, focusing on that customer value, and then using technology where applicable to kind of drive that transformation. Going a little bit deeper and looking at kind of how Forrester really looks at digital innovation, and they've broke it down to 4 basic rules for digital innovators to kind of rewrite their business. And the first one is obvious. It's digital experiences. Delivering easy, effective, and emotional customer experiences is obviously key in the first rule. Secondly, you have digital operations. Focus operations on things customers value. And this one I think is actually a little bit different. I think a lot of times when people think about operations, they're thinking internally. How do I make my supply chain more efficient? How do I cut costs here to increase margins? Which are obviously important things you want to do, but when you're thinking about digital transformation, you want to focus your operations on things customers value and not just internally. Next, you have digital innovation, and this is where it gets interesting. They're saying, okay, your innovation really should be at the intersection of that customer experience we talked about, and then your operations. So when I first read this, it made me think a little bit about, what does that mean? And it made me think back to Netflix. Today Netflix, when you think about customer experiences and things like that, Netflix obviously comes to top of mind because they're just so good at what they do. But if you think back to Netflix's origins, when they really disrupted the DVD rental industry and kind of put Blockbuster out of business, they weren't focused on streaming movies and TV shows and things like that like they are today. It was much more simpler than that. They're innovating at that intersection of operations and experience. They were looking at, the video rental market, and people didn't want to drive down to Blockbuster to rent a video that maybe wasn't there and then pay $5 and then forget to return it and end up paying $10, $15 in overdraft fees. They did something very, very simple. They allowed you to go online, kind of create a backlog of movies and stuff that you wanted to see, and then they just sent them to you, and you paid a flat fee, and it was great. And that really disrupted, that entire industry. And then obviously they kept focusing on, as Amazon says, on the customer and what they value. And now they are where they are. They're not doing DVDs anymore. They're delivering, movies and TV shows and things as a streaming service, and they really become the standard for all the others that want to get into streaming services. So that's digital innovation right there. And then finally, we have digital ecosystems, build platforms and partnerships to accelerate and scale. And this one is also very important because, again, if you want to transform your business and deliver easy, effective, emotional customer experiences, you have to be obviously innovative, but you have to obviously be agile as well. If your business is built on 40-year technology and your backend systems are, an old AS400 or a mainframe or something like that, or your web is driven by a proprietary, platform that has since gone out of business or isn't supported anymore, you really can't be agile. You can't be delivering those customer experiences and keeping up with what their expectations are. So to kind of wrap up all of these business rules around innovation, you really have to look at making sure you have partnerships and platforms in place so you can be agile and innovate at scale. So coming back to Nova Scotia Power, this engagement with Nova Scotia Power originally started as just a website project, but it quickly turned into a digital transformation project that started with the website. Susan, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Thanks, Derek. So first of all, just really, why is our website important? As you saw in our video with one of our PLTs, Adam, obviously at the core of our business is keeping power on for our customers. So just to give you an example, many of you may have heard about Hurricane Dorian. While it might not have hit the United States as a major hurricane, it definitely hit us. So back in September 7th, it hit Nova Scotia. And when it finished, when the storm ended 6 o'clock the next morning, we had approximately 411,000 of our 500,000 customers without power. So you can imagine being our core and having customers needing to find information. The way that our customers can report an outage is that they can call our customer care center or they can report online. So the other way to check for their restoration times is online. So you can imagine how important that website is for us. For example, a regular week on our website would see approximately 50,000 people hitting the site. During that week of what we call Dorian was 1.26 million page views during that week. Again, a daily average is 8,000. At peak, we were getting 500,000 people hitting our site. We also, just so you can see here or figure scale out, we had 17,000 inbound calls and 20,000 comments on social. So for us, our website is extremely important. While we don't lose sales, as some other companies do, we lose customer trust, which is extremely important for us. So really, again, why the web? Well, as you've heard, we are really a monopoly in electricity, and we have, as Derek so politically correct said, we have those legacy systems. We were not agile, but we are moving towards a customer-centric business. So digital transformation for us is really at the core of everything we're doing. So we need to have information for our customers. We need to be able to have digital services for our customers. So then why did we start with the web during this transformation? Well, really, it was because we did have an old platform. So to Derek's point, we were on a proprietary system. It's called OneWeb that a local agency here had created and then went out of business. So we were kind of at a point where we needed to move. It was a great opportunity, though, for us because we were able to update that customer experience by aligning with where we were going towards the customer and really thinking about the customer user experience. We also wanted to standardize, so a single platform that had some shared templates, and we're really seeking governance as well. So it was really a great opportunity for us to jump into this digital transformation with our website. So specifically, project objectives, really it's about delivering that easy, effective, emotional experience for our customers. We just needed to make it modern and relevant. We needed to make things easy. We needed to be consistent. We had a lot of other platforms and applications on our site. And really, it's setting that foundation for us to move forward to get personalized and to use personalization for our customers. The second objective is really to inform and educate and engage our customers. As we said, customers are really, at the center of our business, and we need to be able to provide them information when they're looking for it in the way they're looking for it. And lastly, by hitting those other two objectives, it's really about elevating ourselves to be that trusted and reliable energy source. And for those that are looking, the employer of choice in our region. So I'll pass it over to Derek to get more into the details of the project.
Awesome. Thanks again, Sue. So you've kind of heard how we think about digital transformation. You kind of heard why Nova Scotia Power started this project. I'm going to jump into essentially kind of an overview of the process we took and then dive into some of the details of how we went about, addressing these challenges that they were facing. The project started off with some on-site discovery interviews, quite a bit actually. We probably interviewed over 50 people on site, everyone ranging from your frontline customer service account representatives talking to customers through HR, key account managers, and then finally even the executives of the company, the VPs of technology, CEOs, and things like that. Coming out of that discovery session was obviously understanding what their project objectives and goals were, not just for this year, but where they want to be 2, 3 years, 4 years out, so we can kind of start planning there. From there, we went into design and user experience. So taking all those goals and objectives and understanding what they wanted to do in the web, and then creating the branding and the wireframes and the journeys that they wanted, and then ultimately, creating the development and integrations we needed, and then iterating on that as we went along. At the same time that process was happening, though, we also went into kind of a roadmap development process. So as we're doing this current phase and executing, really mapping out, what happens after the website goes live. What are those next transformations? What are those next improved customer experiences, and that sort of thing. So as I mentioned, we started off the project with those interviews on site, kind of understanding, what Nova Scotia Power was trying to do. And I think one of the main themes we heard coming out of that was that they really wanted to be a more modern and proactive organization. They knew, obviously, they're not, an Amazon or a Netflix or anything like that, and their utility and their customer experiences are going to be different. But I think they did understand that their customers are also customers of those other brands. And the way I like to think about that is your customer's best experience somewhere is now their expectation everywhere. And if you're not meeting that customer experience at that level, you're going to have upset customers, and you don't want that. So Nova Scotia Power understood that, and that was kind of one of the big themes coming out of the discovery process. They knew they had to elevate their customer experience, make it consistent across multiple touch points. They knew they wanted to start delivering, proactive, personalized communications, being a little more insightful. And then the big one was obviously empowering choice. Today, people don't really want to either go into, a bank branch or go in and interact with a person. They don't want to have to call. They want to, go online or go into a mobile app and really maintain their accounts on their own. And that was a big theme coming out of Discovery as well. On the technical side, what we discovered, and again, it's not unusual, especially for an organization this large and this mature, to have technology sprawl, lots of old systems and lots of overlapping systems. When we went in there and started looking at their web experiences, they had a number of different web presences, whether it be the website or portals or microsites and things like that, and they were spread across 5 or 6 different CMS platforms, and that makes it really, really difficult to have consistency in branding, in experiences, and things like that. And internally, it makes it really hard for IT to manage that. If someone from marketing communications, like Susan, goes to the IT team and says, I want to spin up a new site, or we want to change this experience for our customers, it's really hard to do that if you have, again, 4 or 5 different systems in place and older systems that you can't be as agile on. So we know we needed, from a technology standpoint, we had to really elevate that game and standardize on a single system, which kind of brings me to, so why Sitefinity? When we engaged with Nova Scotia Power, they had already looked at Sitefinity and had kind of had made up their mind, but they really wanted kind of an expert's opinion. So they asked us to kind of look at Sitefinity and look at some of the other options out there. But looking at where Nova Scotia Power was in their own roadmap and where they wanted to go, it was clear that Sitefinity's own roadmap aligned very, very clearly with that. Add that to the fact that obviously the Sitefinity CMS is very easy to use from a content authoring standpoint. It's easy to spin up new pages, easy to update content, create microsites and things like that. And then from a technology standpoint, it's also very easy to develop on. It's very easy to be fast and agile when it comes to development, which is obviously one of their key needs. So Sitefinity, I think, was an obvious choice and was pretty easy to make, and it's been very successful at this point within Nova Scotia Power. So going back to kind of that strategy process, coming out of that main strategy was obviously an understanding of their business objectives, but then one large deliverable that kind of wraps it all together, and we call that our digital customer interaction strategy, or DCIS. And really what it is it's the customer experience playbook, and it kind of meets that rule number 2: focus operations on things customers value. What are we trying to do with this new website in phase 1? And the way we went about that is obviously a lot of research, looking at their existing analytics and then hearing from their stakeholders about what their pain points and objectives are, and then looking at the analytics to see if it matches up and see if customers are having hard times doing things. Doing competitive analysis. And although Nova Scotia Power obviously doesn't have competitors or a monopoly, there are obviously a lot of other utilities out there that are doing the same thing, and we can look to those utilities to see, what are they doing very, very well, what are they doing that's not working, and kind of build off that, and then leverage, industry research from people like JD Power to make sure that we are delivering and looking at other best-in-breed utilities to see what they're doing and kind of building upon that. After we kind of look at that research, a lot of things that come out of that are personas, which I'll dive into, customer journeys, obviously the branding and design for the new website, and then key here is a bunch of roadmap recommendations on what the next steps in that transformation are. So as I mentioned, the first deliverable there are those personas. And if you're not familiar with personas, personas are essentially fictional representations of your customers. So if we're going to put customers front and center of all of our decisions and focus on what makes a difference to them, we have to understand who they are. And that's where personas come in. And when we look at personas like month-to-month Marvin here, we look at demographics. So obviously he's 60 years old, has a high school diploma, lives with his adult son and his granddaughter. And that might seem kind of contrived, but it's very meaningful. And if you look at the demographics of Nova Scotia, there's actually a high percentage of 3-generation households. So it's important to understand that when you're dealing with those customers. But beyond demographics, we like to look at not just who they are from a demographic standpoint, but what is important to them when interacting with Nova Scotia Power. What are their decision values? What is the ideal, and I won't even say online experience, what is their ideal digital experience? For someone like month-to-month Marvin, he doesn't have a whole lot of computer knowledge, but he doesn't have a problem getting online and looking at his account, but it has to be easy to use. The information he wants to find has to be, quick and easy to find and spelled out in digestible chunks. And it's important to understand for him, most of his interaction with NSP is going to be, checking on his bill, understanding how to lower his bill, and things like that. From there, we jump into something called a user journey. And this is a user journey from a different persona. This is Green Gretchen, who has obviously different concerns and different goals and things like that. And this is her journey to understand more about heat pumps and how that can make her, a more efficient energy user, which is important to her. So looking at the customer journey, she starts on Google, like many customer journeys do. She does a search, ends up on the Nova Scotia Power website, reading about heat pumps and ways to save energy and things like that. She ends up clicking on a calculator to learn, how much energy can she actually save if she were to buy one. Really likes what that looks like, and then ends up, clicking on find a contractor to get, more information about heat pumps, and fills out a form and is hopefully going to get notified by a couple of different contractors on, next steps and things like that. Looking at their journey, though, we're looking at kind of, what are these steps she's taking, and emotionally, what's working, what's not working in the existing site, so we know where to essentially improve upon that. And that's key to really understanding, again, what's going to delight your customer. So kind of in summary, as we wrap up that strategy phase, we look at the personas, we look at the customer journeys, and then look at the goals and objectives and really make several recommendations around digital strategies going forward that are going to be important to that roadmap. Obviously, we talked about communications. They need to be relevant, they need to be personalized, they need to be proactive, but they also have to be omni-channel. If someone wants to be communicated with via text and not via email, we have to understand that, make sure their preferences are available for that, and communicate with them how they want to do that. In order to do that, though, customer data is obviously very, very important. You can't have data siloed across a number of different systems and expect to have, consistency across things like preferences and messaging and things like that. And once we focus on those strategies, that's where technology comes in. Again, focus on the customer experience, leverage technology where it's applicable and important. And obviously, when it comes to self-service, my account, reporting outages, getting outage information, that's where the technology piece is key. And then finally, that last rule we talked about, build platforms and partnerships to accelerate and scale. And in this case, it was no different. As I mentioned earlier, they had a number of different systems that were responsible for digital experiences at Nova Scotia Power. Coming out of that discovery phase and recommendation phase, it was really key here that our messaging was we need to standardize on Sitefinity as that platform of choice for delivering those customer experiences on the web. And this made it important because we wanted those experiences to be consistent, but knowing that there's all those internal systems for things like paying my bill, viewing usage data, scheduling appointments for maybe something as simple as getting a tree trimmed out front because it's touching the wires. There's a number of different systems internally for those. We have to make sure we're exposing those systems to the customer in a consistent manner, and that's where Sitefinity came in. Also, keeping in mind an eye towards a future where do you want to get into more of those immersive devices and voice and things like that was key to the roadmap. So we talked a lot about kind of the first phase of the project. Where do we go with the website? But as we dug deeper and deeper into that piece, and knowing that Nova Scotia Power kind of want to, as we like to call it, climb the mountain of customer experience to get to the top with the leaders like Netflix and Spotify and Amazon. We knew that this was a much larger project than the website, and you can't be a leader in customer experience overnight. So this is kind of where the roadmap came in. We knew 2019 and 2020 were really kind of catch-up years. Let's rebuild our platforms. Let's become modern and relevant. Let's actually, have decent mobile experiences online and start making it easier to, for our customers to engage with us, but build kind of the architecture and roadmap for delivering those personalized and proactive communications in 2021. And then once we do that, now we can really start to look at, okay, in 2023, maybe we can be on par, with the Ubers and the Amazons of the world. We can really start to look at things like business intelligence and artificial intelligence and be personal and predictive. So once we kind of mapped out that we knew this was going to be a journey over the long time for digital transformation, from there you can kind of lay out what that high-level 5-year digital roadmap looks like. And obviously, it's hard to lay out a 5-year roadmap. Things are going to change, but this kind of gives us our destination. This is where we want to be in 5 years. These are the projects that are going to take to get there. And if we drill into the projects, I think another key thing here is, again, this isn't a technology roadmap. It's a customer experience roadmap. So if you look at what we're trying to do, it's customer experience benefits. It's a modern website experience. And what does that mean? These are the things that have to go into that. It's an improved My Account experience. What does that mean? These are the things that have to go into that. And that's in 2019 and 20. As we move forward, you'll see that the CX benefits don't change. We're still trying to do the same things. We're just bringing it up another notch. And then we're adding additional experiences. In 2022, we're going to add personalization by segment. We're going to add live chat and omnichannel experiences. For 2023, improved search is still a key CX benefit, but now we're predictive. We're getting to business intelligence, artificial intelligence, and it's predictive search now instead of just standard search. But again, the key is those CX benefits and focusing on the customer experience and not necessarily technology. The technology will come, but first we have to figure out, what it is we need to do. What is that easy, effective, emotional experience that we have to create? So that's kind of where we wanted to go. I wanted to kind of bring it back to, okay, so great, we have all these, ambitious goals and things, how far along are we in that process, and how is Sitefinity kind of playing into that? So what we're looking at here right now is the new and improved Nova Scotia Power website. It's a big step up just from a aesthetic standpoint and kind of looking at and finding information. But one of the key things is if you look at the homepage, you'll realize that we're taking into account those personas and those user journeys. When someone comes to nspower.ca, most of the time they want to log into their account, so that button's right there. Or they want to start a stop server, so that button's right there. Or they want to report an outage or look at the outage map. So all those things are right there in their face and obvious to the end user. Another cool thing we did was that today's power, which you can see down there. If you were to click on it, as Susan had mentioned, renewable resources and moving away from traditional sources of energy was very, very important to them. And they have these pages on the site that actually kind of, put their money where the mouth is. They're proactively pushing out, how they're generating energy at any given point in time, showing where the energy is coming from, whether it be wind or hydro or tidal, showing, how many emissions they've reduced every year and things like that. And this is also another good example of kind of that architecture I showed earlier. Obviously, all of this data about renewable resources isn't being stored in Sitefinity because it changes from minute to minute. What they're doing behind the scenes is pulling all that data in from all those different transmission sources, aggregating it, and then feeding it to us. And Sitefinity is really just a presentation layer for all this underlying data coming from other systems. Going back to the website, I also mentioned that search was a big deal for them. People come to the site and need to find answers, and if they can find answers, A, they're a happy customer hopefully, and B, they're not calling into customer service, so it's also reducing costs, which is great. The old NS Power website did have kind of this recommended articles feature that they liked but didn't really like how it functioned, and it was actually pretty expensive. So what we were able to do was kind of build something similar within Sitefinity. So if someone comes to the website and searches for, how can I pay my bill with credit card, executes the search, what then I get is your typical search results for the website, but also a recommended result up top with very specific content on that question, which has been very successful. If we look at the analytics, when people enter search results and that recommended result is up top, they're actually clicking on it and finding answers to the question, which is very important, obviously. If we dive into the back end of Progress Sitefinity, you'll actually see how we implemented that. We created a knowledge base module, which allows marketing and content authors to come in and create new knowledge base articles that have kind of what that question is and that content you want to deliver to the end user. But the key thing here are these key terms you see down there. These key terms are essentially, when someone searches one of these key terms, this is probably the answer that they're looking for. And what we were able to do was essentially take this module and then extend the out-of-the-box Microsoft Azure search that Sitefinity has to provide additional ranking to those key terms. So if someone searches for those, this is going to get pushed to the top of those results because those key terms are getting additional weighting within Microsoft Azure. And from there, if it meets a certain threshold, we can push it to the top as a recommended result. And like I mentioned, it's really paying dividends as far as customer experience goes. The other thing we talked about on the website is people coming in and logging into my account and creating that consistent customer experience across multiple platforms. Today, when someone logs into my account, it's a much, much more consistent experience than they're used to experiencing just 6 months ago. And it's not as simple as just providing the theming and colors and stuff like that to the My Account partner. In this case, if you remember, the original architecture I just showed had kind of Sitefinity being the basis for all of these things. What we found was that was probably the ideal scenario, but there's always going to be other portals and things that we have to interact with. So it became important to make sure that we could create consistent experiences across Sitefinity and other portals that were best-of-breed solutions for the utilities industry. So what we're actually looking at right now is a tool called Kubra, which is a utility-specific My Account platform that lets people come in, log in, pay their bills, and things like that. But this platform, like many other best-of-breed platforms in any industry, their bread and butter isn't customer experience. It's not content management. It's not personalization. So it's important that we were able to integrate Sitefinity into this experience. So when you look at that menu at the top, that menu is coming from Sitefinity directly, so they can manage that content within Sitefinity. If you look at the footer, all that content's coming from Sitefinity. If you look at online services, all that content's coming from Sitefinity. So now we're creating consistent customer experiences, but giving the marketing communications team the ability to manage that content in one single place, which is really, really important. Which, as I mentioned, kind of evolved that customer experience architecture I showed before. If you remember the original diagram, it kind of had Sitefinity across the entire bottom, which was kind of that ideal state, one CX platform for everything. As we got deeper into digital transformation, as we got deeper into making different touch points a better experience, we realized that wasn't going to happen. But what was key here was that Sitefinity became that sole source of truth for content, for branding, for theming, and for customer experiences, and we're able to push those into those other platforms, like you just saw. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sue to talk about what's next on that customer experience journey.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. So obviously you all see you saw a bit of the roadmap, and truly for us at Nova Scotia Power, the benefit, for us with SilverTech is that, they've created the foundation. They've created the roadmap, so they understand. And for us, it's the understanding and overseeing of this roadmap to make sure all of our pieces work together. Because we have a couple other big projects on the go, and one we call AMI, but it's smart meters. So I know that they are not new, but they are new here to Nova Scotia. So with smart meters comes an enormous amount of data. And how do we serve up that data? Where does it sit? Preference management. So all of these, obviously, as Derek just mentioned, goes into Kubra in the My Account section. And how do we serve that up? What do customers want? So that's a huge project on the go. Work asset management is also another big project going on right now, and obviously finding efficiencies for us internally, but really efficiencies as well from a customer perspective. So being able to schedule their own appointments, being able to look online for our team and the customer care team to have a full visibility to that whole seamless transactions for customers. So those are two big projects going on. And then again, continuing on that roadmap of personalized experience for our online. So chatbots, 360 view, the personalized insights and products serving them up. So we have a lot of things on the go. And as I said, it's for us from Nova Scotia Power standpoint, looking towards that customer-centric business model, even though we are a utility that does right now have, a large share in our province, we have to think about for the time in the future when we don't, and our customers may have a choice. So for us, digital transformation is really one of our key priorities moving forward.
So wrapping up, I hope everyone kind of enjoyed the presentation. If you have any other questions, obviously feel free to reach out to me directly, or also plug our case study on Nova Scotia Power. You can find it at silvertech.com/NSP.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to all of us about your implementation and forethought of really engaging with your customers differently, with transforming businesses and really establishing and building seamless experiences across multiple avenues or multiple departments to really focus in on that customer-centric view. So really, really cool stuff. I certainly learned quite a bit about all the different things that you guys talked about. All right, we are going to slide into our Q&A section now. And while you're typing those questions, let's give you a quick little insight into what's coming up here with Progress. We have Progress Next, which is going to be really our 2-day event where we bring in industry experts and technology experts really to help you understand what technology can do for you from a hands-on perspective. So we do have the keynotes, we do have the big theater stage, but we also have a lot of work group sessions that you can really dive deep into with these experts and start understanding from a fundamental standpoint how technology can really approach your business differently, how successful implementations, what they look like, what the results of those are, how people are able to navigate inside their business to really provide an environment where their digital experience ideas and their technology ideas can really resonate. So definitely worth it. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, please go ahead and check out Progress Next. That is progress.com/next. Progress.com/next. All right, we've got some questions that have come in. We definitely want to get to them. All right, so Derek and Sue, let's get on with some Q&A here, some questions. I think the first one comes in, and this is really interesting. It says, how did Nova Scotia Power get this internal alignment between departments, that agreement between departments so that they could progress forward and move forward with this project?
Thanks, Greg. Maybe I'll start off. As you've probably heard, we are quite a progressive, which is really great, a progressive utility. So I really credit that to our leadership and our board, and really it's our strategic focus to think about the future. So not only from clean energy, but as you've heard throughout about our customer. And really that means to make it easy for our customers to do business with us. So it wasn't really that hard of a sell internally. It was that complete alignment between all departments to move forward from a digitization standpoint.
Perfect. We have another question in here. They want to know, what was your procurement process like? How did you move through this from a procurement standpoint?
Well, we obviously do have procurement rules, and we have to go to RFP, and so we send that out. As Derek did mention, we did a little homework on our own first, too, from a platform perspective. So we did our own work on that, and then decided it was probably best to also put a pause before we pulled the trigger on the platform and get a partner and get that partner to kind of go through the same process to make sure that what we found would be similar. So then we went through the RFP process for our digital partner, again, which was obviously SilverTech, and they did their homework too, and we came out to Sitefinity. So we definitely follow procurement rules for that.
Yeah, we always have to, and it always comes out to looking for the best solution for the company for the right price. Derek, I want to switch gears over to you. I have a question that came in. It says, what are the challenges when you integrated with other systems? And then the second half of the question, is there anything that you can share about your development environments that you deployed?
Good question, obviously. As far as integration challenges, I'd say they were pretty consistent with any other project that has integrations. There was a number of them. A few of them were pretty simple. As we had talked about earlier, NSP, as a very mature organization, has lots of older systems, and because of that, a lot of the integrations are almost batch-based. So A lot of times it's just FTPing up a file that has data in it. In the example of the today's power, we're just basically getting a new file every 5 minutes that we're directly reflecting on the site. As far as my account goes, that one was a little bit more complicated, only because once you log in, there's actually 3 systems in play there, and we had to do a lot with like identity management and making sure we had SSO working and things like that. So for that one, it was a little bit difficult because of SSO and single sign-on and things like that. But the biggest challenge is probably exposing that content from Sitefinity, using it as a headless CMS, and then working with the other companies to make sure the APIs work for them, to make sure security and things like that were working. As far as our development environments go, they're pretty standard for enterprise level systems. Development-wise, all of our engineers develop on their own internal systems, promote code through essentially pull requests where the technical owner kind of merges it in. And then we have a staging environment where we do all of our testing. Nova Scotia Power does all of their testing, and then we're using Sitefinity SiteSync to push the content from staging to production. And then development changes are obviously where we're pushing kind of manually through a development process.
Perfect. Very extensive process there, yeah. This one came in, and I swear I didn't make this one up. This one's going to be, Derek, for you. What other CMSs did you evaluate and work with? And then what were the deciding factors that you made when you chose Sitefinity to go forward with?
Good question. So in full disclosure, SilverTech is partners with Progress Sitefinity, Sitecore, and Kentico on the CMS side. We also do WordPress work kind of on the lower end of things, and we also do Drupal work. We're an Acquia partner. In this particular engagement, we evaluated, I have to think back, that was like a year and a half ago, it was Sitefinity, Sitecore, Kentico, and Drupal. And Drupal is actually already in-house at NSP, so it was something we had to look at. And the reason we went with Sitefinity, is I had kind of mentioned in that slide, was that as far as ease of use, content authoring, and stuff like that, Sitefinity was a really good fit. As far as developer learning curve, Sitefinity is a really good fit. And then again, just kind of lining up the roadmap, competitive pricing. It ticked off all the boxes and was a good fit organizationally.
Perfect. Derek, there's another one for you. Is the knowledge base a custom design widget, or is it a list item built in Sitefinity?
Good question. It is both. It's essentially the backend is just a dynamic module that you can create right through the UI. Then there's a customization. Sitefinity has a Azure search implementation, and it's actually open source. So we took that and then extended it to add things like ranking and weighting to those key search terms. And then the search widget itself was extended to actually, I don't think the search widget was extended. I think the search widget was used as it is. We created a new widget that shows that recommended result, and we just placed that right above it on the page.
Gotcha. All right, Sue, we're going to switch gears over to you. We have a question that came in is, with all the different vendors around, what were the things that you were really looking for that SilverTech was able to provide you as a vendor?
Sure. I think for us, obviously, when you're looking for a partner, you're looking for someone who has expertise in the space, like from a digital space. Your SilverTech had utility experience, which was obviously very important to us, as well as user experience. So those three, for us, SilverTech stood out absolutely when they presented. The fortunate part for us that we got out of it, though, was a great partner from a fit to our culture and a true partner. And I say that in the terms of, there's a lot of people that could probably execute, a new site, but we didn't want someone to just execute. We wanted a partner. We wanted expertise. We want someone to counsel us. So, those were the things. Obviously, the three check boxes of digital utility and user experience, but the others were an exceptional benefit that we had with them. So, but those were the things that we were looking for when we went out.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's so important to find those partners and vendors that you can rely on to have that full vision of and scope of what you're looking for and how you want to and how each individual project will play into a bigger strategy and scope. So that's awesome. Thank you. We're starting to run out of time here, so we want to thank you, our guests again, Sue and Derek, so much for coming on, taking time out of your days to share with us this experience. It was truly remarkable, and thank you all for submitting your questions. If I hadn't received your questions or I haven't been able to respond to your questions, we will do so. We'll do that on an individual basis. We'll reach out to you and make sure that your questions are answered. Again, thank you so much for joining and taking time of your day, everybody, that you would spend some time with us to learn more about this implementation and in this seamless experience that Nova Scotia Power and SilverTech were able to provide, produce, and deploy. So have a great day. Thank you all. Bye-bye.